See how quick
I
you
would
are.
like to say a few words on this.
Well, I've already been quick.
Come on. Item 11.
That's an oxymoron.
Oh, I can't see them down there at all.
It's loud.
Who's there? Barry.
That's okay, we've got to get a move.
It's me.
Okay, so we'll let...
Would you like me to move the trees?
No, I just can't see because the sun's coming through the glare of the window. So I'll ask Dean to kick this off, please. Introduce Barry and
Ian Stupple.
Ian
Julie.
and Julie.
Just
Dean.
before I introduce them, and I'll leave Barry to do those introductions, can I just share with you what we're proposing with the agenda for the rest of the afternoon, keeping in mind that
Yes,
we're
please.
aiming to finish at 5 o'clock. So at this stage, we are proposing to defer, unless we finish early enough, and that's at risk, defer the low carbon Auckland item,
Yep.
to defer the urban Ngāhere item,
Yep.
and to defer the Fit for Future item, which is unfortunate, but given the circumstances, it's the right thing to do. And so we'll now resume the agenda in the order that you've got, with those items postponed to a future meeting.
Do you have any say in that, Mr Chairman? I'd really like to hear about the libraries. We've been in a vacuum for a very long
So
time.
we're doing what we can, Councillor, to work through what the staff we've got available, the time slots we've got. So
Okay.
just try and make it a project. Councillor Darby.
Deputy Mayor, I've got a concern about deferring the low carbon Auckland item. Defer to when?
I'll ask
February.
Dean's.
So look, I mean, at the worst case, it'll be February, but if we're able to find another slot in the calendar between now and when we close, then I did discuss with Councillor Hulse as chair whether there's an opportunity to find another time and reschedule what we weren't able to get
Thursday
to,
morning?
but I can't assure us of that at this stage.
Thursday
So
morning.
just on that, I've got a concern about deferring an item. I mean, we're talking about the decline of one species for 4 hours, and most important that we do that.
6 hours.
This item talks about the decline of millions of species and ultimately ours. So I've got a real concern about how we don't address climate change in this council, and here we are deferring it yet again.
We've got Thursday
So I would like to keep low carbon Auckland on the agenda for this meeting. It's probably the most important item on the order paper.
I don't disagree with you, Councillor. It's the one I was probably looking forward to in the midst of a very complex agenda. So will we just thank you, Deputy Mayor, for stepping in. Were we just working out what we were deferring and what we weren't deferring? I mean,
Let's get on with it. and we
my
can-
feeling is that, you know, we should just press on. There are some that actually require, which I hope is what was said, there are some that actually require a decision today. And if we are prompt, and we can be prompt, I think we should go back and do low carbon.
So that's what we said.
Well, isn't that wise? But I do agree that in an ideal world, that would have happened. So why don't we
It's
crack
a
on?
climate change world. That's
It
what
is, absolutely, you don't need to tell me that.
some more coyotes
So,
helping
how
the
about we
climate.
just do this and then we can get on to climate change? Waste management.
Thank you very much. We have a very brief presentation which we'll go through very quickly, and then we can go on to the paper and have questions and comments. So we'll just start onto it.
Thank you, Chair. You would have heard quite a bit of this before through the workshop that we did a couple of months ago. So what we're looking to do is to approve the Waste Management and Minimisation Plan called Working Together for Zero Waste for public consultation. Having a WMP is a requirement under the Waste Minimisation Act. So we're looking for adoption as part of the LTP by the end of June next year. So current waste plan comes to an end, the middle of next year, and that's focused very much on the 20% that the council influences, so predominantly household waste, but also some commercial waste at the transfer stations. And we focused on consistent household services, working closely with our communities to get them engaged and enthusiastic about waste. And through that, we've achieved, in some areas, some good social and environmental outcomes. We've also got significant recognition, and we would usually have Parul Sood and Councillor Philippina here today, but they're hopefully going to pick up an award for C40s over the next couple of days, which puts us on the world stage and what we're doing, particularly with our communities, but also around managing organic waste. So where we are at the moment, compared to 2010, domestic waste is decreasing. We've seen household waste reduced by around 10% per person. But if you look at the graph on the right, there is a growing gap between zero waste and actually waste rising. So it's gone up around 40% over the last 7 years. And if we carry on as we are, we'll end up landfilling from the current 1.6 million tonnes to about 2.5 million tonnes in 2040 per year. So our waste plan approach so far, we've done a waste assessment, looked at a number of options, and it's listed in the paper. We've gone for an option 2 that looks at continuing the delivery of the current waste plan, but focusing on that 80% of commercial waste that's managed by others. And we're building on the aspiration that we currently have around zero waste by 2040, that focus on people, environment, and seeing waste as a resource. And the priority actions in the domestic space are carrying on those consistent waste services, so moving towards user pays refuse predominantly, and a food waste or food scraps collection, and building on the success of the community recycling centres, and then trying to impact on that total waste stream, advocating to government, looking at a higher waste levy, more product stewardship, so producers taking responsibility, and a focus on 3 commercial waste streams, which form the bulk of the total waste to landfill. So that's C&D waste, organics and plastic. So option 2 that we've chosen is deliverable within the current budget envelope, the rates allocation, on the assumption that also that we get a higher waste levy as well, which sits with the national government. So the work that we've done to date, so the document has included a significant pre-consultation, and to deliver the waste plan, it will be very much around partnership with a whole range of stakeholders. And we've currently done 7 workshops with industry, particularly the waste and recycling sector, construction and demolition sector, but also community groups, and Manawhenua and Motawaka. So the recommendations, that's a summary there, but really what we're looking to do is to get an adoption of the draft waste plan so we can move it forward as part of the LTP consultation process.
Awesome, thank you. Councillor Walker.
Happy to move, Madam Chair, and I have one question. May I ask it?
You're a good man.
And that is around the importance of the progressively higher, but I would suggest quantum leap in the waste levy. So we're covering off that as well as we can in the draft? And the implication of it?
Yep.
Perhaps I might just respond. That's an initiative that we do need to follow. There's a direct correlation, as we've presented before, between cost to landfill and other diversions from that waste stream. So that's an important part of this, but it is a lobbying exercise and supporting exercise that we will need to do with central government because it's their determination, not ours.
Okay. Can I, and just while I hear from Councillor Newman, can we give some thought to who wants to be on the hearings panel? That would be great. Councillor Newman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I want to acknowledge the work that has gone into this space and to acknowledge the staff for their assistance in addressing some of the challenges that we face, particularly in the former Manukau area. In endorsing this, Madam Chair, I do think it is important that we focus very much on the commercial industrial waste because that waste stream is really causing difficulty. I favour a weekly household refuse collection. I do want to say, Madam Chair, and I'm going to be seeking the Mayor's support and advocacy on this to Housing New Zealand, that it is absolutely necessary for Housing New Zealand to stop freeloading off the council and to provide 2 40-litre wheelie bins for 3-bedroom tenancies. The idea that Housing New Zealand, in South Auckland in particular, can freeload by providing 1 20-litre wheelie bins as a default service is ruinous for those tenants. It doesn't acknowledge the fact that it provides choice to some, but not to others. If you're in Papakura, you're going to get the choice. If you're in Manurewa, you do not. It causes tenants a great deal of difficulty, and the containerised service is exposing in very real ways every Wednesday the fact that there are tenancies that are overcrowded, and the fact that Housing New Zealand to date have been unwilling to move on that policy position is unfair to its tenants. It is unfair to the ratepayers of Auckland. It is freeloading, and I will be addressing this matter because I do think the Mayor does need to take it up with the Minister of Housing, the Chair of the Board of Housing New Zealand, and the Chief Executive. I support the plan, but it requires stakeholders like Housing New Zealand, who have a very big role to play in assisting their tenants, to come to the party and to contribute fairly so that those tenants who are in bigger tenancies with more people living under those roofs have the means to manage their household refuse, because at the moment a lot of them do not. Thank you.
Thank you. It sounds like we need to get our waste minimisation team in there to help.
Here.
Any other questions? Councillor Darby.
Just a brief one. Can you quantify, with the implementation of this plan, subject to engagement, etc., can you quantify the reduction in CO2 over the anticipated period of the plan?
Through the chair, we are calculating that information. We're looking at a number of separate cost-benefit analyses. One of them is organics, and that tries to quantify and put a value on CO2 reductions. The detail isn't in the draft waste plan at the moment, but we will look to develop that as we move ahead.
So, Madam Chair, it's moved and seconded. Can I just note that we received recognition at the C40 cities for waste reduction. How we can't quantify it at such an early stage is a little bit worrying for me, and it leads into the item on the low carbon economy, because my feeling is that we're doing good deed in reducing waste, but we've got to reduce the CO2 outputs from waste. And I thought that's why we were prioritising the reduction of putrescible waste, or the recycling of putrescible waste over, say, demolition waste, because the CO2 benefits there are greatest. But unless we can start to quantify these things, a lot of it looks like a band-aid arrangement, super gluing, rather than getting to the crux of the problem, which is CO2 outputs. That's what tips us over the edge in terms of climate change. And just, it's not a complaint, Chair, it's more, I just want to keep the focus on those particular numbers. They are the critical numbers that we need to understand. And the fact that we don't seem to at this point, but will do in the near future, but we're at this stage, suggests to me that we're not preparing from the right base. But it is good work, that all aside.
No, I think that's a fair enough point, Councillor. Just reminding everyone that this came from a zero waste approach. The carbon, the reduction in CO2 is absolutely critical, and it is now the driver for our food waste collection, as well as driving our zero waste targets. But sometimes it is do what we can when we can do it, and now we can also measure the carbon attached to this. That's part of the C40 work that we're doing, and it's one of the reasons why we're actually getting acknowledgement from C40. We can take a stab at these things, or we can measure them properly, and I would rather we did this once we can actually measure and quantify effectively. Any other questions? Councillor Sayers.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Just a clarification on the figure there, that 91 million, and that's plus GST. But the waste levy, is that in that, or is that on top of?
Through the chair. So currently we get around $6 million from the waste levy, and that's included within that. The advocacy for a higher waste levy would generate significant additional revenue, which would then assist with infrastructure for resource recovery. So it's really our existing rates envelope, which includes a whole range of funding sources, including revenue as well from user pays and transfer stations. But actually, to start eating into that 80%, that commercial waste, it's looking at national government raising the levy as well and allocating that accordingly across councils, including us getting our share.
Right. So do we know what the levy might be in terms of the dollar figure for Auckland Council?
Yeah, so through the chair, so at the moment it's $10 a tonne for every tonne of waste that goes to landfill. We contributed to a report with 20 other funders, including the other councils and also the waste industry. And there were a number of options, but actually to get a huge step change, we'd be looking at in excess of $100 a tonne levy.
Oh, sorry, do we know what that adds up to? Is it a quantitative amount for over a 10-year period or a period of time or annually? Just trying to get a total, I guess, the 91 plus the levy, what that might total.
Again, through the chair, I think it depends on, because depends on a number of factors. So actually, I can't give you a straight answer. Predominantly because if the levy is staggered over a number of years, which is the proposal, so it gives certainty to industry, but also it relies on the government allocating that, but also how waste will reduce over that time as well, because ultimately what you're looking to do is increase the levy to make other forms more attractive. So I haven't got that information in a simple format, I'm afraid.
Massive.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, that's been moved and seconded. I'm going to put that recommendation, what? Oh, actually let's, that's true. I did say let's look at the hearings panel. Hands up, who wants to be on the hearings panel? Me and Wayne. Who else wants to be on the hearings panel? The IMSB will decide, I guess, separately.
Councillor Cashmore had his hand up.
Councillor Cashmore says he'd love to be on the hearings panel.
Oh, I've done
That's
enough of those.
fantastic.
How many do you want?
You could have it for
Councillor Cooper.
I'm not saying yes, I'm just saying I'm a
Councillor Newman.
member of the Waste Advisory Board to the Ministry for the Environment, so I don't know whether I'd have a conflict being on the hearings panel.
No conflict.
do.
So
Complimentary.
well, I don't know that, so if we can get that legally checked,
We can do that.
then I could be part of it.
Okay. So meantime, we've got Councillor Walker, myself, possibly Councillor Cashmore. Councillor Newman is staying very stum on this
keen.
one. I'm going to be
Councillor
working.
Newman would love to.
That gives me
And you can
something
you can get shouted at by the gallery.
That gives me something
make
to
a
work
decision.
on. The IMSB will come back with their
I have
nominations.
such firm views, that's the issue.
We will work out whether Councillor
Spread the love,
Cooper's
Daniel.
okay or not,
Firm views.
and we'll go from there. That's marvellous. I'll put that recommendation while I can. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried.